What's going on, Knicks fans, and welcome to another edition of the KFS Pregame Show. It's your boy, GMAC. He is Mensa, he is XJ, and we are here to preview the Knicks' upcoming matchup against the defending world champions, although you wouldn't know it by how they've played at certain points of the season, the Golden State Warriors. The Knicks are in the Chase Center for just the second time, and ironically, and I cannot believe that it took me a minute to triple check it, but it checks out. A place they have never lost, the Chase Center. The Knicks have never lost a game at the Chase Center. What could go wrong in this game? The Knicks are coming off a 2-game winning streak, two just flat out impressive victories against the Utah Jazz. And then despite no Jokic and no Aaron Gordon, I'll still say it, an impressive victory over the Denver Nuggets in which they came back from a 10-point deficit late in the fourth quarter. And you also got to give him his flowers, led by Julius Randle as well as Jalen Brunson, especially on the defensive end for Randle. And yet, for some reason, every time we do this pregame show, pitchforks are out and we're complaining about something. We start with the headlines as we usually do. Or at least as we started to do this week, and go to the headlines. According to Shams Charania as well as Ian Bagley, the Knicks are open and have started fielding calls around the NBA in trade interest for one Derrick Rose and one Emmanuel Quickley. Now, the Emmanuel Quickley report came from a couple weeks ago from Ian Bagley, or it might have been at the beginning of this week from Ian Bagley, where he suggested the Knicks would be open to moving the third-year guard to free up and to sort out the logjam that the Knicks currently have on the roster. We've been saying for a number of months the Knicks need to make a consolidation trade, and this may be the path that they take. I don't know who to throw the ball to first, because I know both of you have strong feelings about this. I will go to Mensa first, because I want everybody to hear the quality of his new microphone. So Mensa, your overall thoughts about the news and the rumors and the scuttlebutt that came today in Knicks land?
It's so I have a philosophy in life is life tends to be a joke, and if you're not the one laughing, then the joke's on you. So yeah, it's a comedy almost. It's like, okay, guys, we have a logjam here, right? In order to clear up the logjam, let's get rid of our best players. That's how we're gonna do it. We're gonna trade Quick, who has the best on-off of any Knick on the I think third year in a row. We're gonna trade Derrick Rose, who is the second unit point guard. I know Emmanuel Quickley has done a lot of the organizing, but I'm not ready to call Quickley a point guard. And I mean, he's doing great in the 12, 13 minutes that Tom Thibodeau is giving him. So for this to be the rumors, you can honestly at this point, if you are sticking up for the front office on this trade, then you might have Stockholm syndrome, because there's no sense to this. The team has criminally mismanaged Emmanuel Quickley's minute distribution. They criminally mismanaged the roster around him, and you can argue, and I would argue largely that the Knicks draft players and only see them as assets and not as guys that they should be developing. The coaching staff, however, does a great job developing the players, but as far as organizationally, do we draft guys and then create clear lanes for them? I think we've seen it since RJ was drafted in 2019 that we don't do that. We see, if we're looking at Obi Toppin, there's no space for him to grow, at least. There's no space for Emmanuel Quickley to grow, obviously, because they want to get rid of him. Quentin Grimes can't make the rotation, even though RJ Barrett is sick as a dog. It gets to be embarrassing. And I'm brought back to the shrug moment. What are we doing at this point? The way I am with the front office is the way they've been. I've been 1 foot in and 1 foot out. And the half measures at this point, it's like, what are we measuring up to? So I'm not very happy about it, to say the least.
I don't blame you either, and I'll get to my thoughts later, but it's largely a cosign. XJ, what about you? Especially, I'm assuming Quickley, even despite the poor shooting start on the advanced level, is highly regarded.
Absolutely. And I think something that's interesting, this is not a direct comparison, but an analogous situation is like last year, Steph Curry had a really down shooting year for himself. But you looked at the impact metrics and you're like, huh, they didn't really change. Like his impact on the game was still one of the top offensive players in the NBA, despite like having a really reduced shooting percentages and efficiency. And Quick is one of those kind of guys. I think what he did this year is something that's amazing, which we just need to look back at his NBA draft scouting report and look at his biggest weakness. His biggest weakness was his defense. The reason why he dropped to 25th in the first round was his defense. Literally turned his biggest weakness into his biggest strength in like a little over 2 years. That's absolutely unheard of in the NBA. And this is a guy that we're talking about trading for what? The only way it would make sense if we're getting a high lottery pick, not just a lottery pick, because you can go through any year and look at the lottery and say, I would take Quick over 90% of these guys, besides like a top 3, top 4 guy. So at this point for me, it's, I hate to bring Tibbs into this, but because we're talking about the front office, but I have criticism for them both always. Like at this point, it feels like the front office and the coach are working in tandem to suppress the value of their young players. And they're doing this by not playing them enough, right? And then, okay, like let's take this example. If Obi Toppin averaged his per 36 stats, 20 points, 8 rebounds, 2.5 assists, 1 steal on close to 50, 40, 90 shooting splits, and 60% effective field goal percentage. That's like an elite player in the NBA, right? Could he sustain that over 30 minutes against starters? We have no idea because he doesn't play the minutes. And this value suppression effect is true for Quick, it's true for Grimes, and it was true for Cam before he got minutes, right? That same thing was happening. And it's so much worse when you compound this with the idea of trading players whose value you suppressed and then want to trade them at this low value that you generated. That's straight organizational ineptitude, right? Like, so I have to imagine Chris Persianen actually talked me off the ledge earlier because he said he thinks the Knicks are shopping Quick, hoping a team will overpay for him. But so they'll alleviate this kind of guard logjam, whatever you want to call it. If they either get a reasonable deal for D Rose or a home run deal for Quickly. I can only pray that that's the case, and that's what this is all about. Because if they trade him for like a low first round pick or some kind of protected first round pick, this is complete organizational ineptitude. So
I'm glad you brought up Chris's report because I go back and forth with this front office. They've been responsible enough that I can't criticize them and call them too incompetent. But then I echo what John says about the very low standard we as Knicks fans have for this front office. Just be baseline competent, draft well, like scout well, be responsible with the contracts that you hand out. And like in the moment, coming off an All-NBA season to get Randall to extend early, that is like good value. Getting RJ Barrett with all these unlikely bonuses in that contract, it's 4 years, 106 at the end of the day. That's fine. Jalen Brunson, it's anything looking like a bargain at this point. And like you could say the Fournier contract now is bad, but if you look at the cost of shooting in the NBA today, like you could make the argument like you got to pay a premium for guys that make 40% from 3. Although you kind of had one in Reggie Bullock that you could have just brought back, but that's another story for another day. The idea that they would trade Quickly. And I love how we're doing this with Quickly and not D Rose, who has been pretty productive in his minutes, been one of their better players, but you understand with Derrick Rose, a veteran being shopped around to go to another team that could potentially use a contender on an expiring contract. You understand that. As you said, XJ, the guy's value has been suppressed so much over the first 3 seasons of his career that if anything, the only benefit you get from it is that, well, maybe you can extend him for less when you're ready to actually take advantage of his skill set. And yes, he's been inefficient this year. He goes through these shooting slumps. They're annoying, but the way he hunts for rebounds, the defense that he plays, as just as much as we praise Randall for how the Denver game ended. Emmanuel quickly needs the same exact amount of praise, especially on the perimeter. And look, the weirdest part about this for me, guys, and I'll throw it back to you on this. So the logjam. What's the logjam now? Like, they just shortened the rotation to 9 players. Yes, I could probably see them opening it up to one more with Quentin Grimes. So if it's the whole thing is to make room for Quentin Grimes, please don't trade Emmanuel quickly just to make room for Quentin Grimes. It's as simple as Derrick Rose goes someplace else, which like might not even be the smart play there, or just go back to 10 men and have Quentin Grimes play in the rotation. So I'm a little confused by the fact that there's still this issue that we have too many guys, because I thought you had shortened it to something that worked. And XJ, I listen, are we overreacting to this report? And this was just like a thing that was floated out there that's now getting like they're just doing their due diligence, or like how worried are you that they're actually going to include quickly in some type of deal?
So I tweeted out when the initial report came out that they were getting calls on quickly, I think by Begley. 0% chance this front office trades quickly this year.
Well, good.
So I don't know that I feel as confident anymore.
So you up to like 5, you up to 10? What's the percentage?
I'm up to like 10% chance. I can't imagine it happening. It would be really shocking to me, because this front office, if nothing else, they've been really solid in not making bad deals, and they've been really cautious about like not losing out on these trades in terms of like not winning in the value proposal, the value proposition for these trades. So I can't imagine they're going to trade quickly for like a crappy first round pick, a protected first round pick or something like that, or an unprotected pick from a really good team. Like I would be shocked if it happened. It's like you started to touch on, Andrew, like Quickly has improved he's improved his 2-point shooting this year. His rebounding has improved. He's become their best defensive player on the Knicks by far is Emmanuel Quickly, right? I look back at his free throw shooting in college, because I'm like, should we be worried about his shooting? Over 625 free throw attempts between college and the NBA, Quickly shooting 88.5%. That would be 14th all time in the NBA. That's a huge sample size, 625 attempts. I'm not worried about the guy's shot. It's going to come. And as soon as it comes, he's going to be his ex-teammate, Tyrese Maxey. And when he's Maxey for another team and you trade him for the 25th pick and you're trying to hit on a guy like that you had already, you're going to look ridiculous. I can't imagine they're going to put themselves in that position to look that way. So I don't think it's going to happen, but, you know, I hope that I'm right.
Mensa, what about you?
So what are we trading Quickly for? Like, there's no
great question. Yeah.
There's nothing that you could reasonably get that's gonna make me believe, oh, it was a good trade. Let's trade Quickly. Who's coming through the door that is going to add, or what is somebody gonna give? Is San Antonio gonna give you their unprotected first round pick for Emmanuel Quickly? Are you going to get a pick from Indiana? Nobody's giving you anything that you would want in order for you to say that, to look at your fans and say, we won this trade. To look at yourself in the mirror and say, I won this trade. Like that's why, to me, it's a joke. Okay, we're going to trade Emmanuel Quickly because we heard Evan Fournier's feelings and we have to clear the logjam so we can put Evan Fournier back on the court. Like that's the only thing. Like it just doesn't make any sense to trade Emmanuel Quickly, because there's like, what are we going to get? Are you going to attach him to Julius Randle and get something really nice so that you can clear the boards and get and Obi Toppin, the guy that you pick 8th overall, can get some playing time? Like there's nothing that you can do. And I remember on the last pregame show, I spoke about the merits of using some of this draft capital that we've accumulated to move the big players out of the way, like Fournier or like a Julius Randle, in order to give these guys an opportunity. Because now look, now you're getting ready to pay the guy. You aren't too sure about what you have in him, which is crazy to me, because all the numbers say the guy can play basketball, and you're trying to trade him for what? What's the point of those phone calls? Like, okay, let's say we called the Lakers, right? Okay, I see you guys need a guard. You don't have many guards. What can you offer for Emmanuel quickly? Oh, well, we're not going to give you our 27 or our 29th pick because we're holding out hope that Damian Lillard might come to Jesus and say, I want to be in Los Angeles. Like there's nothing out there that is going to allow you to make a trade and say we won this trade by giving away potentially our best two-way player. It just there's no sense to it at all. This guy's been the linchpin of one of the best 3 to 5 bench units in the NBA since he's been drafted. And to trade him now at this juncture, it's like, what is the end game? I'm pretty sure any team that is offering a star player down the line would rather have Emmanuel quickly than the 2026 heavily protected Denver Nuggets first round pick. Like this, like, what are you getting? What are you getting? It just doesn't make any sense. And this feels like the Knicks are cutting off their nose to spite their face. I just don't understand it at this point. It's crazy.
To be clear, because I agree. I echo what both of you are saying. They haven't traded him yet. This could be what Chris Persianen is talking about. They're just seeing if someone will blow them away with an offer. I think the sting of quickly being traded would be lessened if it was like to offload Julius Randle. But I'm for an organization that's determined to be as mid as possible. The way you do that is by keeping Emmanuel quickly and not playing him too much. Like that him in the role that you have is exactly what you need. You need good players to not great players, good players to be a middle of the road team. And I think, look, I want to see what this diamond rotation turns into. We'll see how it pans out in Golden State. I also want to clarify, I see some back and forth going on in the chat about whether they can keep, like, it might be extension reasoning because Quickly's extension eligible this offseason. So is Obi, so is Cam Reddish. The Knicks can extend all three and go over the cap because of their bird rights and because they're on rookie extensions. And because you, as XJ pointed out, have suppressed their value, you can extend them for less. And as the cap continues to rise, their contracts being at a discount might actually benefit you in the long term.
Yeah, just real quick on that. You're totally right. One, you can go over the cap, far over the cap on all of them. You can definitely extend all of them. You're going to get them on fair deals because nobody has them as a super high value because they don't play very many minutes. And then at the same time, you're talking about 3 of these guys that can grow with the team as opposed to retaining somebody like D Rose, who, I love D Rose, and D Rose has been an awesome like offensive conductor for the second unit, but he's a veteran that this is what happens when you have 1 year left on your deal and you're a veteran and you're playing for a team that's like not really going anywhere. Those guys get moved. So yeah, I just wanted I totally agree on the cap issue. I don't think it's an issue at all. They're going to be over the cap anyway. I think it's totally fine to move forward with and re-sign all 3 of those guys.
I have a prediction. I think only Derrick Rose gets moved. That's it. And it makes room for Quentin Grimes in the rotation. Because Quickly has proven that you have to play him. They're already playing Jalen Brunson fewer minutes than I thought they would. So I think the only purpose of the Derrick Rose minutes, although like he was very productive and really good in the Denver game, but his main objective right now is to spell Jalen Brunson at the beginning or the end of the first quarter, beginning of the second, and the end of the third quarter, beginning of the fourth. This is not a knock on D Rose. He's seen his minutes cut in half this season. But that's like probably the point of his career, or the purpose of his career right now is to be a backup that spells a much better starter where there's really not much of a drop off in the process. So if Quickly can fill that role and it's just like 14 minutes a game that can be split between Emmanuel Quickly and more Jalen Brunson minutes, I think that's actually a fine destination to go,
My last, very, very last word.
Go ahead. You're good.
This. Very last word on this. It's very noisy, right? But I'm looking at 538 Raptor and small sample size, so it's very noisy. Emmanuel Quickly is ahead of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Raptor right now. He's 12th in the entire NBA right now, and his shot is not there, right? Like I said, very noisy. He's obviously not better than SGA, but his impact is extreme on off and on defense especially. And when a shot comes around, he's going to be an elite 6-man or very much a capable starter. So I just want to say that.
I actually want to bring up a question from the chat. Shout out Dirty Dancer, who's always a contributor in our post game and our pregame chats. The question becomes, do you pay the luxury tax, which the Knicks wouldn't be at even if they extended all three, especially for what they'd extend them for. But I get the principle. Do you pay the question becomes, do you pay the luxury tax to keep a 40-win team together? I guess my thought would be, if you've got the 40-win team in place and the guy becomes available, you then aren't trying to turn a 25-win team into a tech contender. You're trying to turn a 40-win team into a contender, and the leap isn't as high. Do you guys agree?
Where I speak about that is yeah, I do. I agree with you with the premise of what you're saying, because the way I look at it is, you don't because you made mistakes with other contracts, like because you made the Julius Randle mistake and because you made the Evan Fournier mistake, doesn't mean you go out and say, all right, let's blow it up. Let's not look at a guy like Jalen Brunson. If you've committed to one way, same thing with Emmanuel Quickly. Just because you have bad contracts on your books does not mean that the money that you're going to give to Emmanuel Quickly and the other guys and eventually go over into the luxury tax doesn't mean those are bad contracts. It means the bad contracts that you've currently committed to, you need to get rid of those. So paying Emmanuel Quickly does not mean this team is eventually going to be paying the luxury tax for a 40-win team if the front office gets fired. And we have the Quickly contract, we have an Obi Toppin contract, and we have the RJ Barrett contract, the Julius Randle contract, and the Evan Fournier contract. And they said, you know what? We're going to get rid of these old dudes. We're going to get rid of Julius Randle. We're going to sell them off to the highest bidder. We're going to attach some assets, get rid of Evan Fournier. And now we have these three guys here, and this is what we're going to build around. And if we have to sell them off at a later date, no problem. But I don't think that the idea with paying Emmanuel Quickly is to do it in order to keep a 40-win team together. I think that's kind of that's a little too reactionary a take.
And to be clear, if the front office gets fired, but they've extended all these guys already, so many other possibilities are in play. Like, because then there's a new vision, a new organizational direction that might actually think Emmanuel Quickly deserves to be a starter, and Obi Toppin deserves to be a starter. Like, who knows what the new direction with the new voice would be. So I agree, Mensa. What about you, actually?
Re-signing those guys actually adds flexibility, right? So this is the kind of thing that Jeremy talks about a lot. Mm-hmm. Right now, the luxury tax threshold is 150 million. The Knicks are at 142.5, so they have about 7.5 luxury tax space. And then we're talking about Fournier is probably going to come off at some point. He'll be an expiring next year. Not gonna say very easy to move, but you can move an expiring contract like Fournier. D Rose is coming off. Even if they extended all three of those guys, they wouldn't meet the luxury tax threshold, especially with the cap going up. And even if they did, it would be okay because you would have so much flexibility. You would sign those guys to solid, movable deals. So I don't think it would be a problem in any case. I think it would be great all the way around.
I have to stress the cap going up as why this is so far away from the thought that they'll be in any financial hell or handicap because of this. There will be $70 million players in 2 years. That's something you should prepare yourselves for. And they might not be good. They just might be, that's what a max contract looks like. So, like, prepare yourself for Jaylen Brown signing a 5-year, I guess at that point a 4-year if it's not with the Celtics, but if it's with the Celtics, a 5-year, $300 million contract. Like, that's what I would prepare everybody for. I will add that if you did want to, thank you, Dirty Dancer, for the question, by the way. I will add that because you would keep the team together, that's a 40-win team, you could look to upgrade with other players on the roster that might have been included in a trade. And one of those players is RJ Barrett. As we transition into the preview of the Warriors game tonight, the theme of this game is talking about players who are off to slow starts. So if you're looking at the Warriors, who have Klay Thompson, and we'll give Steph his flowers in a little bit, don't worry, but Klay Thompson is off to the worst start in his career. He's also coming back from 2 catastrophic injuries. He was fine last year, and actually really good last year, and the defense started to show up during the playoffs. but his shooting splits have not been great. And this season, on 15 attempts a game, 9.6 threes per game, he's shooting 35% from the field and 33% from three. And it's really hurt them this season. It's why the Warriors are off to a rough start this year. However, as I do the full preview of the Warriors, the Golden State Warriors are 6-9. That's nice, but it's not so nice. They're 6-1 at home. Now that's nice. And so the top fives and the bottom fives that I went looking for, I sorted them out by just the home splits. And as far as home teams in the NBA are concerned, the Warriors, when they are at the Chase Center, are 4th in defensive rating, 5th in net rating, 3rd in assist percentage, 3rd in effective field goal percentage, 3rd in true shooting, 2nd in pace, 3rd in points per game, 3rd in field goal percentage, 1st in three-pointers made, 3rd in three-pointers attempted, and 4th in three-point percentage per game. Night and day, this team at home and on the road. They're led by Steph Curry, who, if you listen to today's Patreon pod, is having arguably the best season of his career this year. When you look at some, especially with the guys shooting 44% from three on 12 attempts, it's like unheard of. That's a made up thing. But there are guys on this team that are struggling, especially on the bench. And one could say that RJ Barrett should take advantage of the second unit. So before we fully get into the Warriors, because I tried to make a correlation in Klay Thompson to RJ Barrett, their slow starts, I want to give the floor to Mensa, because as you can see in his handle, in his name tag, Mensa from the RJ Hive. And Knicks Film School has been a little critical of RJ Barrett this week. So I want to give the floor to you. Have we been too hard on RJ Barrett this week, sir?
I think that on merit, RJ Barrett has been terrible. Just got to come out and say it. I'm a very avid RJ Barrett supporter, but the issue that I guess I have as a fan of RJ Barrett is a lot of the criticism from RJ Barrett, in my opinion, is not coming from a place of concerned Knicks fans for the future of their team. It's more people who are like, it's kind of like we're having an "I told you so" moment, you know, and that to me feels a little off color. It feels a little disgenuine almost. Like, this guy, RJ Barrett, was drafted 3rd overall, highest pick in franchise history since Patrick Ewing. And what have the Knicks done in order to facilitate his growth as a player? First year, he has David Fizdale as his coach and 4 power forwards in the starting 5 with him, basically. Worst spacing in the league for a guy who came out as a playmaker and a slasher, right? You give him Elfrid Payton, Julius Randle, and whatever the hell else that team looked like, because I've honestly put it in the back of my memory and I don't want to unlock those memories. The season after, he is relegated to his role in the Thibodeau offense for the first 100 games was Bodie from The Wire. Go stand in the corner and be a corner boy, right? Like he treated him like a glorified Reggie Bullock, essentially. So then and what did RJ Barrett do? He went and became an elite corner shooter from 3. 3rd season, he finally gets a little bit of rain, but it's the offense is not necessary. Okay. When you don't have a Luka Doncic, a Devin Booker type, a Steph Curry, a Giannis, a guy who you really don't have to call plays for, you can just say ISO, take it from the top of the key and go make magic happen. Then you don't need to have the most creative offensive play calling style. When the offense, okay, does anybody? I'll just ask a question here. Where does what's RJ Barrett's sweet spot from 2-point range? Do we have a play that we run consistently to get RJ Barrett in a place where it's like, okay, I remember in Duke, he was really good at these pin down screens. I forget what they're called specifically, where he'd catch the ball coming off a screen at like the free throw line and then get the ball with the full head of steam. We run those sometimes, but not consistently enough for a guy who is struggling offensively. we know where Julius Randle likes the ball. We know that Jalen Brunson can get the ball and create for himself because he's done that reliably. He's done that since he was at Villanova. He did it with the Dallas Mavericks, and now he's doing it with the Knicks. What we are doing with RJ Barrett organizationally and from a coaching standpoint, to me, is not facilitating any sort of growth. Okay, a good shot for RJ Barrett in this offense is a wide open three-pointer for a guy who is not historically a good three-point shooter. We are okay. When you look with Julius Randle, you look at Jalen Brunson, you look at RJ Barrett. Over the past couple of seasons, RJ Barrett is the best three-point shooter for all three of those guys. When you want to talk about volume, maybe not percentage-wise, but RJ Barrett, in terms of volume, has made more threes over the past couple of seasons, right? So he has to take a lot of threes when he's on court with Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle, especially when Evan Fournier can hit the bright side of a barn and you want to start Mitchell Robinson when he's healthy. So now you're asking a guy who is not historically a floor spacer to be a floor spacer, and now through 15 games in the season, he's trying to it feels like he's trying to adjust to being a third option, but when you look at the stats, he's actually taking more shots per game than anybody else. So he is featured, but the way we are featuring him does not make sense for what his skill set is. You can say, what is his skill set? He's probably better in this as a six-man role. And at this point on this roster, I can't disagree with that. Because maybe you might call plays for him. Maybe you might design some actions for him if you put him in a six-man role. But what we have done with Tom Thibodeau as a head coach, and this is extrapolated to a guy like Emmanuel Quickley and Obi Toppin and Quentin Grimes, we draft guys who have a lot of talent, and then it's up to them to show us how talented they are. We do not do anything from the coaching standpoint, from the organizational standpoint, from opening roster spots and making it so that these guys can have opportunities on the court and in terms of minutes. We're not doing anything as an organization for these guys. So when RJ Barrett struggles, when Emmanuel Quickley is struggling with his shooting, what are we doing for them? What are we doing with Emmanuel Quickley when he's struggling shooting? He's still shooting the ball off we do not generate easy baskets on the offense from the coaching standpoint, and from the front office standpoint, we are not creating opportunities for these guys to get the minutes they deserve. Speaking of Obi Toppin and speaking of Emmanuel Quickley. So if you ask me, the front office and the coaching staff are complicit in how bad RJ Barrett has looked for his career. And they're complicit for how low the value of an Obi Toppin and an Emmanuel Quickley is. And in 6 months, we're going to be saying the same thing about Quentin Grimes if Tom Thibodeau is still here, and if the front office is still in place. These guys, when it comes to drafting, they know talent. They can see talent. When it comes to actually getting the most out of their talent, you cannot look me in the face and tell me that they have done everything that they could to get the most out of RJ Barrett, to get and to a lesser extent, not even and more over with Emmanuel Quickley and with Obi Toppin. Is RJ Barrett having a good season? No, I will not say that. But this 15-game sample is not what I saw in his second year, and is not what I saw for the totality of his third year. So after 15 games in his fourth season, for me to have this "I told you so" victory lap kind of air to my comments, to me, that's nasty. To me, that feels dirty, and it feels like I never believed in this guy. And now that he's showing me over 15 games that he's not the guy that I don't think he is, when we're not looking at everything in context and not taking nuance into account, because the numbers are the numbers. And I understand that. I will never dispute the numbers, because at the end of the day, these guys get paid with a number, and I'm a bettor. So I can't take RJ Barrett props. I'm staying far away from them. Like, I'm going to be honest. The numbers matter a lot to me, but everything else also matters to me, because I'm a concerned Knicks fan first. And we have to keep that. We have to keep the main thing. RJ Barrett being a good basketball player benefits everybody. RJ Barrett being bad at basketball only benefits the opinion of some. And I think we need to get back to rooting for the team in its totality, and not just saying, aha, I was right, this guy isn't any good. That's all I have to say about it.
So 2 things. One, from our good friend Sean, preach, my friend. So I'm conflicted here, because I hear what you're saying. I agree with you. It's the one part of the RJ Barrett conversation that I don't think gets enough play. I'd love to see what RJ Barrett looks like on a team that makes sense for RJ Barrett. Having said that, you did point out in all of that, like there's a lot of this on him too. Like the
Of course,
shooting,
of
the
course.
shooting is so bad,
The
Mensa,
shooting and the effort on defense has been really terrible this season.
which is on him. That's not on Tibbs. That's not on the front office. The effort is on him. And it's where that's the only time I've ever been actually concerned about RJ Barrett is this season when it's like, oh, like if you're not going to be at least an average defender on this team, then I was fine with you sitting the other day. And look, we could say the quiet part out loud. I know the main voice of this site and this channel is very critical of RJ over the years. I think it's more just the tampering of expectations for RJ and what his future could be and how he's untouchable in a Donovan Mitchell deal, that now that he's struggling like he has throughout his career to be an efficient shooter, you know, it's like this is the guy that he's living up to his career numbers to this point. You know, I think that's more what the sentiment has been. The "I told you so" and the overreactions on the post games, that's just it comes with the territory. I've seen a lot over the last 3 years, and they they exist. They're a lot. XJ, do you have anything to add to the RJ conversation?
Yeah, I'm just gonna go quick because I really want to leave off with what Mensa said. I mean,
Yeah.
I agree with all of it, honestly. And I mean, it harkens back to what I was saying the last pregame show about the coaching, right? Like, we don't have sophisticated coaching. They're not flexible to the talents that we have and the skill sets that we have on the court. Like, where are the Obi Toppin pick and rolls with the court spaced out? Like, why doesn't RJ have the ball in his hands, creating more with some more screens coming downhill? Like, why aren't we exploiting these guys' best skill sets? And it's just very stubborn standard coaching that you know, we're trying to fit these players into like this box that we have for them, and you can't do it. You gotta say, hey, what is your skill set? Where do you best perform? Like, what maximizes your ability? And then we're gonna put you in as many positions like that as possible. And we don't do that. And that is like, I think that's just objectively true. Like, I don't see a way that you can argue that these guys are really being put in the best spot to succeed. So, I mean, I largely agree with Mensa. I think the effort and stuff, yeah, it is really hard to defend, especially on defense for RJ. But yeah, I agree. These guys are not. We don't really get to see what they are. We don't get to see what Quick is. We don't get to see what Obi is. We don't really get to see what RJ is. And
Quick and Obi, I'll give you. Quick and Obi, I'll give you guys. RJ Barrett has been top 5 in minutes, it seems, over the
it's
past
not just minutes
3 years,
though. It's like how they use them. Like, it's usage. It's like spots on the court. It's like maximizing his ability. He's not just like a spot up shooter. I don't think he's ever going to thrive in that role in this league. And yeah, he can do it. He's been working on his three, and sometimes he hits, sometimes he doesn't. He goes to hot and cold stretches, kind of like Quickly does. But I don't think that's the best way that he's going to be able to thrive.
So we talked about this the other night, though, XJ. The most successful RJ Barrett thing of his career so far was when he was a spot up shooter during the pandemic season. And it's when, playing off of All NBA Julius Randle, they turned him into that. Last year, they could have pivoted to just let's see what this RJ Barrett thing is, and they didn't. And yeah, it led to 37 wins, which is probably the most you could squeeze out of that team. And in certain lineups where they were a positive on off for the year, but who cares? Like, it's an organizational thing to not see what these things look like and just go with what the very base level floor could be. Which is why, man, I thought we would be able to get through this without criticizing Tibbs, and the entire Quickly and RJ conversation came back to the coach. But it's earned. I will say that it's earned. It's what we've seen for 2 years.
I just want to say, really quickly, it's I would call it Kevin Knox theory, because how many minutes did we give Kevin Knox his first year? Mm-hmm. But were those minutes well spent? And a lot of RJ Barrett, let's look at the Denver game, for crying out loud. RJ Barrett did not have it. We have Emmanuel Quickly, we have Quentin Grimes, we have Cam Reddish. Instead of, okay, let me bring it back. What a smart team would do when they have a player who is struggling, they would probably limit his minutes and do things on offense, call some plays for them to get these guys into the rhythm of things. What Tom Thibodeau does is RJ Barrett is a volume shooter. So you know what? I'm going to let him shoot in volume, hoping that eventually he will get out of his funk. And I know that to be true because he did it with Julius Randle last year. It doesn't make sense. What these guys are doing from the coaching staff standpoint, we need to invest our offensive strategy into the development of these players, not just into the win by win thing. It's like we need the bigger picture. I understand that winning develops culture, but how you win is also very important, because if you're developing these guys, then your winning over the course of time becomes sustainable. The Knicks do not have a sustainable winning strategy other than give the ball to Jalen Brunson, because we know for a fact that Jalen Brunson is good. The Julius Randle clear out stuff does not work for a guy like Emmanuel Quickly's development. It does not work for RJ Barrett's development. It does not work for Obi Toppin's development. We need to be doing things as an organization, like getting Obi Toppin on the floor with Jalen Brunson and running 20 pick and rolls a game. That's the kind of stuff that that I would like to see. And that's not exactly rocket science. A pick and roll is a pick and roll. If you want to get RJ Barrett involved, run some pin down screens for him. Use him the way Mike D'Antoni used Landry Fields in 2011, getting him cuts and stuff like that. Do different and creative, not even creative things, just do different things. By giving the ball to RJ Barrett with one man to beat, and then there's a center rotating when the guy does not jump as well as I expected him to jump when he came into the league, if I'm being honest, that's not smart. It's like, when you have pieces and you have guys to play, it's like the way the Knicks use them is like, all right, let's give him the ball and say, let's see what you got, kid. No, I don't want to see what the kid has. I want you to tell me what the kid has and put him in positions to win. The Knicks, from a coaching staff standpoint, have not done that. And with the roster, we know how criminal the roster construction has been. So, yes, it is mostly, and I'll give you this, it is mostly on the players. It absolutely is mostly on the players. But if Jaylen Brown was drafted by the Detroit Pistons, I don't think he's the Jaylen Brown we see today. If RJ Barrett was drafted by the Spurs, maybe he's a different guy. We saw what they did with a Keldon Johnson, who was drafted the same year, lower pick. Keldon Johnson was given time and opportunity, and they didn't say, hey, let's go get this nonsense let's not go get Will Barton and put him on the team in front of him. You know, like, that's the stuff the Knicks would do. The Knicks would say, Will Barton is a good player in a vacuum. Does he fit on my roster? No, because all I care about is asset accumulation. And I believe that because we put asset accumulation ahead of player development, that we are now in a place where RJ Barrett, where we can have an honest conversation about if RJ Barrett has developed over the course of of his 4-year career. Because that, like, when when John Schmelk and John were having that conversation, I'm like, that's true. Like, we can't say that RJ Barrett is definitively better at anything in year 4 than he was in year 1. But also, when you draft a guy 3rd overall, you have to do more. Like, you have to do 10 times more than what the Knicks have done for RJ Barrett since he's been drafted here. And we're seeing it to a lesser degree with Emmanuel Quickly because he wasn't drafted as high, and Obi Toppin, who was drafted 8th overall, and we've done nothing for. It gets to be annoying. It gets to be frustrating because the RJ Barrett conversation has so many, like, nuances and levels to it. And at the end of the day, it's always going to boil down to RJ Barrett didn't get it done. He did not do enough as a player. But as a fan of this man and as a fan of this team, I want to speak honestly about everything, not just who RJ Barrett is. And I think if we're going to comment on who RJ Barrett is, and if we're going to comment on who Emmanuel Quickly is and Obi Toppin, we need to talk about what the organization has done to empower these players. And I believe they've done zilch.
I got nothing to add. I'm just going to let you walk off on that one, Mensa. I'm not even gonna, nothing to add. Let's go to betting and sweating. Presented by the fine folks over at WynnBet. God damn. Download the WynnBet app now, or go to visit www.wynnbet.com to start winning. Sign up today to receive a special offer. Bet $100, win $100. Download Bet Win. That's www.wynnbet.com. Download Bet Win. The Knicks take on the Golden State Warriors tonight. I'm working on the screen share now. The current line for the night, the Knicks are, hold on. I'm discombobulated by all the fire that just got spewed in my face. So the Knicks are currently plus 7.5 on against the Golden State Warriors. That's 237 on the money line. The over under for the game is 234.5. As I mentioned, the Golden State Warriors, one of the best teams in the NBA, have all these different top fives. Let's go back to what I said before. Mensa grabbed the mic and told everybody to clear out. The Warriors at home this season, if you're just going by home performance, are fourth in defensive rating, fifth in net rating, first in 3-pointers made, fourth in 3-point percentage, third in true shooting, third in effective field goal percentage. This is not the 0-8 team on the road that the Knicks are going to be playing tonight. This is a much different animal. So I'll go to XJ first. Where are you leaning tonight on some of the on your betting and sweating pick?
Yeah, I just want to say, you see what we did? Like, we knew Mensa was hot tonight, and as a team, we cleared out and gave him the space he needed to thrive. Now, if Tibbs was coaching us, no, I'm just kidding.
The guy is
I'm trying to
44%
effective
right field goal percentage. Numbers matter too. Go ahead.
So yeah, you talked about a little bit about the difference between the Warriors at home and on the road earlier. And it's a crazy disparity. I think another disparity that we see is the difference between the bench and the starters. So actually the starting rotation, the starting lineup for the Warriors is actually really, really good. Surprisingly, if you look at their record. But the bench is horrible.
Horrible.
Once Curry's off the court, this is a different team, kind of similar to how we talked about the disparity between the Nuggets with and without Jokic. So I'm looking at some Knicks bench players to do pretty well this game. I think the bench is going to be able to keep us in the game. And I mean, I was thinking about that plus 7.5. That feels like a lot, but I'd rather kind of focus on a Knicks bench player. So I'm looking at Obi Toppin, his points and assists. And last time I saw it was 12 plus at plus 100. I don't know if it's still the case, if it updated since earlier, but I'm looking at the Obi Toppin line. So
say it again.
And sorry, it's Obi Toppin. It's the points and assists.
Okay.
So it's going to be in the
player combo. Let me pull it up. Obi Toppin. Hold on. I was looking at Sean's and I wanted to see. Okay, so here's what you got for Obi Toppin right now.
Yeah, 12 plus at plus 100. Yeah, I like that. I think Obi's going to have a big game. The bench is awful for the Warriors.
Okay, points and assists for Obi Toppin. 12 plus. Well done. Man, I might actually take that myself a little bit later when we get done with this. Mensa, you almost have to take an RJ Barrett prop now.
In mid rant, I said I'm staying very far away.
I know you did, but then you had another rant and said that you burn this place to the ground if he doesn't do it. So what do you got?
Keeping it simple. 5 Steph Curry threes. I think that's at like minus 111, which I don't normally like to take that much volume for such a low, I guess, like low payout. I prefer like if a guy hit 5 threes to get like 3-1 odds on it. But the Knicks give up so many threes, and I think that Tom Thibodeau's Knicks have gotten very lucky in the first 2 games because we haven't seen a star player. Steph Curry this season is the star of all stars. So yeah, 5 threes for him. He might hit that in the first quarter of this game. So I like it. I like it a lot.
So you know what I was looking at, Mensa? You should know everybody. We don't discuss our picks. Only if you're not there do you send in your pick, which is why I'll talk about Sean's pick in just a second. I was looking at 6 plus threes for tonight because it's plus 180 for Steph Curry.
That's just so much, like you're paying a lot of juice on that 6 threes. Like that's a great night for anyone.
And is against a team that gives up a lot of threes.
All the threes in the world, yeah.
It actually makes a lot of sense to think he'll get to 6. I'm not going to go that direction because I've been obsessed with these points, rebounds, assists props, which is why I'm leaning Jalen Brunson, 30 plus points, rebounds, and assists. That second unit that XJ was talking about, the Knicks go to their second unit with Jalen Brunson against the second unit. So to clarify what I'm trying to say, the Knicks substitution pattern, Jalen Brunson comes back in with the bench at the beginning of the second quarter. So with that in mind, he might be able to feast tonight, points, rebounds, and assists. And if I'm just getting 30, that's 27-3 for the night, which is something I think you can get. So I'm going to go Jalen Brunson, 30 plus points, rebounds, and assists. So Sean's reasoning behind this is that redacted, Mr. Julius Randle, might not want to close out on defense tonight. Draymond Green, 1-3 is what he's betting. Draymond Green to hit 1 3-pointer, which like it's one. So it's not like he hits 1 3 tonight, you're done. How many threes do you think Draymond Green has made this year, guys?
14.
14? Mensa, what's your guess?
That's my
4.
guess.
You're correct. He's made 4 3-pointers this year.
Oh, he's made 4 3-pointers this year?
Draymond Green he made one on night 2. He made one on night 7. He made a game 7. He made one in game 8. And his most recent one against the Suns, he made one. Draymond Green has made 4 3-pointers in 15 games this season.
He probably has 14 attempts is probably what it is. Do you see
He
his
has
attempts
attempted. Well, I got to do math. Let me go back to his main basketball reference page, and then I'll double check it for you.
Yeah.
But he has attempted 15.
Okay.
So last night he got to 15. But
because I knew I had looked it up at some point.
Point being, like guys had 23 pointers in the last 2 seasons. So Sean,
I would not want to watch this game waiting for Draymond to.
Yeah, that's the thing. Guy who does not look to shoot threes. You're going to see him wide open at the top of the key a lot. However, if there's a team to do it against, remember when Ben Simmons hit that 3 against the Knicks and it was his first 3 of his career? And it was like, of course, Ben Simmons' first 3-pointer of his career is against the Knicks. So those are our picks for betting and sweating. One more time, shout out to the fine folks over at WynnBet. Download the WynnBet app now or visit www.wynnbet.com to start winning. Download the sign up today to receive a special offer. Bet $100, win $100. That's bet 100, win 100. Download it. Bet, win. Before we wrap up, guys, introducing a new segment. I've got some trivia for you. So Steph Curry has hit 1,998 3-pointers since 2015, since the season he won the Most Valuable Player award. How many other players? So there are 7 others, I should say, that have hit at least 1,200 3-pointers. Can you name the other 7?
Oh, the easy one is James Harden.
James Harden has hit 1,729. I should clarify, this is since 15-16, not since 14-15. So since his unanimous MVP year.
And what's the number?
There's 7 others. There's 6 others now. So it's
No,
Steph,
I mean, how many total threes?
1,200 3-pointers made.
Oh, so Klay Thompson.
Klay Thompson is not on this list. Remember, he
Really?
missed 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he shoots a lot. Okay.
By the way, chat, if you want to throw guesses out, these guys can't see the chat, so go ahead and throw some guesses out. Again, this is 1,200 threes, basically in the last 7 years. Yeah, 7 seasons.
Yeah, it's tough because I'm thinking of all like younger players. Damian Lillard.
Damian Lillard is at 1,580, so that's 3. You got
Bradley Beal.
Bradley Beal did not.
Man, I'm doing terrible.
Is KD up there? He missed
Kevin
some
Durant
time.
is not. No.
Okay.
So you got Steph, Harden, and Lillard, which are the top 3.
Yeah. Okay. Those are the top 3.
Yes.
Huh.
Kyrie
There's
Irving?
one. No, there's one name. Oh, you got to play it in order to.
Of course.
Sorry, that's a low.
Of course.
All right. Let's go.
Of course. How could I
So-
forget?
I'll start. There's one name that I was shocked by. There's one name that Knicks fans know very well. There's one name that was a teammate of a player that we've already said. And there's one name there's 2 others that are prominent NBA All-Stars and future Hall of Famers. The chat's got one of them so far.
A teammate of someone we already said.
Yes.
So either Harden or Lillard. Oh,
Yes, either Harden or
CJ.
Lillard. CJ McCollum is correct.
Okay.
CJ McCollum's made 1,317 3-pointers in the last 7 years.
that's on volume.
Yeah.
We got more of them than I thought we would, to be honest.
You're up to 4. You're up to 4. So I'll give you another hint. One was a Knick last year. You're gonna
Kemba?
be Kemba Walker.
Kemba Walker, wow.
Kemba
Yeah,
Walker's
okay.
made 1,293 3-pointers since the
Wow.
15-16
Oh.
season.
Didn't see that coming.
Someone in the
He
chat
shot a lot of threes in Charlotte.
Someone in the chat suggested Evan Fournier.
I mean, he
That
has
is
the
funny.
Knicks record.
I mean, he does have the Knicks record. It's because the Knicks record was really low, unfortunately. That was really good. Keelan, the curator.
I think you should give us the rest. I don't think
Okay,
we're gonna
so
hit it.
one currently plays for the Miami Heat.
Kyle Lowry.
Kyle Lowry has made 1273.
Would have never guessed it.
LeBron James.
LeBron James is no. Only recently they started shooting a ton of threes.
Yeah.
One currently plays for the Los Angeles Clippers.
Paul George.
Paul George is up there.
1,400 3-pointers made.
Hmm.
And then fourth on this list, we named 1, 2, 3, and then 5, 6, 7, and 8. Fourth on this list with 1,469 3-pointers made in the last, I guess, since 2015-16. 15-16. And it's funny, he's fourth on this list and got drafted in 16-17. So with one less season is Buddy Hield.
Oh, okay.
I should have.
Okay, that one makes sense.
That one makes sense.
Yeah,
Yes.
we
Buddy
should have had that
Hield,
one.
ladies and gentlemen. He's actually
Yeah.
Lakers got to do that trade. Buddy Hield would be exactly what they need as far as shooting is concerned. He's shooting over 40% from three on all the attempts this year. So, like, there's a guy. I wouldn't trade him quickly for him, but you want to consolidate the roster, turn a couple of these assets into Buddy Hield. I would do it.
I need a second to do just a little Steph Curry stuff right before we depart, because I
didn't clear the floor. That's right. So we got 5 minutes.
I can do this in less than 5 minutes. I just want to talk about Curry's year. Curry's having his second best year. I think Andrew, you said this might be.
You could argue.
Best year. Clearly second best year.
It's clearly second behind the undefeated.
15-16 is the greatest offensive year of all time. It's not close. There's no one who had a better year than the 15-16 Steph Curry year. Offensively, it's not close.
Okay.
But he's having his second best year right now, which is crazy to say that Steph Curry was born in the 80s. It's ridiculous that he's having his second best year of his career. He's shooting 49% from three on 6 attempts on pull-ups, on pull-up threes, not catch and shoot, on pull-ups, 49% on 6 pull-up attempts. He's shooting 46% on threes that he shoots after 7 or more dribbles. 7 or more dribbles. He's shooting 46% on threes that he jacks up after that. And just to be clear, the reason why I would stick clear of too many threes for Curry tonight is because he's using his shot as a threat better than ever to create easy buckets. He's now shooting 76% in the restricted area. So just so you understand what that means, Jokic is shooting 75% in the restricted area, and Giannis is shooting 74% in the restricted area. Steph Curry is shooting 76% in the restricted area this year. Absolutely insane. He leads the NBA in EPM, which is my favorite impact metric, is second in Raptor, second in ESPN's RPM, but on offense, he's number one across the board, has inarguably been the best offensive player in the year, in the season this year. I just wanted to drop a few Curry stats and just say the dude's ridiculous and is top 5 all time. I know. What a way to end it.
Jeez. We have
ain't enough ice in the tip scheme.
We spent all this time talking about RJ Barrett, and you're gonna throw in RJ's top 5 all time take at the very end of it. Good Lord. You really have 15-16. Look, I agree with you. It's the best individual season. Like it's hard because my eye test is like there's nothing more unstoppable that I've ever seen than Shaq in 2000. But I also like the second biggest thing would be Steph in 2015-16. Steph's averaging more points per game, more like it's higher 50, the higher 50, 40, 90 on more volume 3-point shooting this year. Like all of his numbers are up from 15-16. What's the pushback on that?
What's the Warriors record this year?
Yeah, but that's what my point is, that individually he's having a better season. That Warriors team had Clay not being this, Draymond not being this.
Exactly.
You know?
Well, everything in the context of impact. That's how I view the game of basketball, right? So I don't just view his like counting stats. Like I mentioned last year, he had a down year as far as his shooting percentages. You look at his effective field goal percentage, his true shooting, everything was down for his career, but he still had a very similar impact that he's had at previous years. And in that 15-16 year, every impact metric is like breaks all of them. Like it's not even able to evaluate the level of impact, the spacing that he created, the gravity that he had in that year, the clutch shooting that he had in that year. It far surpasses just any of the efficiency metrics that we can look at. So,
okay, that's fair.
If you want to question if Steph Curry's 15-16 season was the greatest offensive season we've ever seen, just look at Victor Wembanyama, who instead of dunking on people is hitting pull-up threes off one leg. Like the 3-point shot has never had more value ever and it's because of what Steph Curry did in that 15-16 season.
Totally. Just I looked it up real quick. EPM was 9.2 in 15-16, highest ever recorded for EPM. It's been around for 20 years. That's the highest ever. Raptor is 12.2, highest ever. It's been around for 10 years. Highest ever recorded offensive Raptor. ESPN's RPM 12.03, highest ever since 1996 offensive. Like the impact metrics are broken by that season.
I have Steph third in players all time that I've ever seen, because I wasn't alive for the 80s, wasn't alive for the Will Russell era. I have him eighth all time out of respect for that era, out of respect, XJ. I'm on record that if he wins a title this year, I would have a long heart-to-heart with myself and talk about the Magic Johnson conversation, because you could argue, you talked about impact from a quantifiable standpoint, and then Mensa talked about it just from the fact that we have 7-footers taking threes now. The league looks different because of Steph Curry, and that I think is your impact. If the league looks different because of you, and you could argue that with like 5 players ever, and one of those is Steph Curry, which is why I don't think it's insane to say he's one of the 5 most impactful players in NBA history, which, I'm curious to see how the Knicks defend said fifth most impactful player in NBA history. Wow, what a pregame show. Thank you for everybody for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed all of this tonight. Remember, we do this an hour before every game. Let me get back to you on Sunday, because we might do a pre-recorded version of the show on Sunday that then airs an hour before the game, but some of us want to go watch the Jets take on the Patriots. So we'd rather pre-record a show and make sure the show goes on, but not necessarily interrupt the second quarter of the game. Business first, don't worry. There will be a pregame show, but we'll get back to you on exactly what it looks like in the future. My thanks to Mensa, my thanks to XJ. Their Twitter handles are in their name tag. Whether that still matters at the end of the weekend, we'll see. But give them a follow. And maybe next week we're plugging our Facebooks. Who knows?
My Instagram's the same as my Twitter handle, so
there you go. If you want to follow XJ on Instagram,
wherever you want to go.
Same as me. If you want to follow my Instagram, and listen, XJ Designs. If you want to go follow his very well done graphic design work over there, that's where you can find it. And yeah, Knicks take on the Golden State Warriors tonight. Hopefully, it's the third consecutive win on this Western Conference road trip. Hope you guys enjoy the game. We'll see you afterwards with John, hopefully after a W. Knicks Nation, let's ride.